Welcome. In this video lecture, I'm going to talk about the master production schedule. So the topic we are going to discuss in this lecture is, first of all, we will see the framework of manufacturing planning and control system. Then we will discuss the aggregate production plan because when we are talking about the production planning perspective, the starting point is always sales and operation plan, which is mainly called as with respect to the production planning angle, the aggregate production plan, which is mainly talking about the product family perspective production plan. So we will discuss in a bit detail what is the production family means. Then we will see how we can define the master production schedule, as well as what are how we can link this master production schedule with the aggregate production plan. And then we will discuss an example where we will try to develop a very brief and a very simple type of aggregate production plan. And then based on that aggregate production plan, we will try to develop the master production schedule. And then we will discuss in detail what are the possible inputs and output for when we are developing the master production schedule, and then what are the steps in order to develop the master production schedule. And as we know that when we are performing the planning perspective, either we are doing the aggregate production planning, either we are doing the master production scheduling, even when we are talking about the material requirement planning, the major thing is we have to deal with the capacity restriction as well. And lastly, I will discuss about the master production schedule MILP model, which in this lecture I'm not going to discuss in detail, which you can check in the upcoming lecture, in which I have discussed in a detailed view. Even I will discuss how we can solve this model through iLog, IBM iLog OPL Cplex Studio. So first of all, the manufacturing planning and control system, it is always start from the strategic planning, but right now we are talking about with the production perspective. So the technical level is basically the sales and operational plan. And right now, because we are talking about with respect to the operations angle, so the starting point is always the production plan. And this production plan is basically at a product family level. What does that mean? Let's say if we take the example of a home appliance company. So for the home appliance company, the refrigerator is a basically product family, whereas product refrigerator model A, model B, model C would be the end product. So remember that whenever we are developing the aggregate production plan, that is developed based on a product family. And we have to make sure that the aggregate production plan must be aligned with the resource plan, which means the capacity plan at the aggregate level. We must have enough resources available in order to produce or meet that production plan. So once we have developed the aggregate production plan, the next is we have to develop the master production schedule, which is basically developing the plan or developing the production plan for every end item or the final product, right? As I have given the example that we have to develop the master production schedule for product A, product B, product C, which is basically belong to that particular product family. And finally, we will see that whether that master production schedule is aligned with the capacity or not. If it is not, then we try to adjust that capacity according to the master production plan. Okay. And then once we have the master production schedule, then we will develop the material requirement planning. But in this lecture, we are going to talk about this part, which in which we will try to develop the master production schedule, as well as we will see how we can relate this master production schedule with the aggregate production plan. And once we will develop the aggregate master production schedule, we will see how we can uh, do the capacity planning. Okay, which is called as rough cut capacity planning. So first of all, let's briefly discuss about what is the aggregate production plan. I'm not going to discuss in detail, but let's briefly discuss about what is the aggregate production plan in this lecture. So basically, in order to develop the aggregate production plan or aggregate operation plan, first of all, we need the forecasted demand for the product family. Let's say this is the forecasted demand for January, February, March, and against every particular month we have the capacity. Okay, what is our objective in the aggregate production plan is that we have to meet this demand and supply, which means the demand as well as the supply. So there should be some balance between the demand and capacity. However, we would be able to minimize our total cost. So that is basically the ultimate objective of RS. So that is balancing the aggregate demand and capacity in order to find out the optimum combination of how much quantity of particular product we should produce, what would be the workforce level, which means how many workforce we should hire, how many we should fire, like that, like which means in every particular month how many labor we should have, as well as how many inventory of that particular product family we should hold in every particular time period. So remember that as we have discussed earlier that if our aggregate production plan is good, we would be able to develop the appropriate master production schedule and material requirement planning. If our aggregate production plan is not as per the appropriate trade-off between the demand and supply, so there will be definitely poor we are going to develop the master production schedule and material requirement planning, as well as there are other disadvantages such as loss of sale, loss of profit, excess of inventory we have. Okay, so remember that whenever we are talking about the aggregate production plan, as we have discussed earlier, that is based on the aggregation level, mean product family level, and it is called as the intermediate range of planning, which is normally doing for 6 months to 1.5 year or even 2 years. So in order to develop the aggregate production planning, this type of information must we have, which means before trying to develop the aggregate production plan, which is basically mean we want to know against that aggregate production plan, according to our plan, how much total cost we are going to pay, okay, or bear. Then, based on our aggregate production plan, what would be the inventory level of the particular month we should have, how much quantity we are going to produce, what would be the employment level in every particular month, should we go for the subcontracting or you subsourcing or not, okay, outsourcing or not, as well as they whether we are allowing the back order or not, right? So these are possible output. The input is we should know the current workforce level. We should have the policy statements whether our management want the subcontracting or outsourcing or not, whether our management is allowing overtime production or not. Okay, what is the minimum or the maximum inventory level you want to keep in every particular time period, whether the back orders are allowed or not. Okay, and then we must have the demand forecast at the product family level. Then we should know the carrying cost per unit back order, high firing cost per unit overtime, inventory changes cost, which and as well as the subcontracting cost. So the ultimate goal is we need to find out the trade-off between, as we have discussed earlier, the production quantity, the workforce level, the overtime and the regular time production quantity, as well as the subcontracting, okay, as well as the backlog. So there should be the trade-off where we would be able to minimize our total cost or maximizing our profit. Okay, so once again, in a different way that we are seeing that once we have the aggregate production plan, then we are going to develop the master production schedule. And obviously, this is going to be changed. We need to adjust maybe due to the master production schedule, we are changing this one, or maybe based on this, we are changing this one. Okay, so that could be possible. Similarly, once we have the master production schedule, we are going to develop based on that material requirement planning, which we will discuss later. Okay, again, based on the material requirement planning, maybe we are going to change the master production schedule. And then we are discussing the capacity. So the most important thing is at every particular level, you must compare with the capacity planning requirement, whether we have the enough capacity available or not. So based on that, we are changing this one. Okay, based on the capacity. So now let's first of all discuss how we can define the master production schedule. So master production schedule is basically a time phase plan which specify how many and when the firm should plan to build a end product, or you can say final product. Okay, as we have discussed earlier, once we have the aggregate production plan at a product family level, based on that we are developing the master production schedule, right? So, in a nutshell, the master production schedule is what to be produced and when to be produced, which is basically the lot sizing definition as well. So, either you can call it as lot size, or either you can say master production schedule, which means how much quantity we should produce and when we should produce, right? So in this particular diagram, basically, I'm showing the relationship between the aggregate production plan and the master production schedule. So basically, we are saying that with respect to, if we are saying in the month of March, okay, so we have to meet the demand, the production and the inventory over here in these three products, which we will discuss later in detail. So we have to make sure that the sum of this must be equal to, like if I'm talking about the demand point of view, 4,000, so sum of this and this and this, so this must be equal to the 4,000. Similarly, when we are talking about the production point of view, the sum of this and this production quantity must be equal to 5,000. So that's why we are saying that the master production schedule must be aligned with the aggregate production plan. But in reality, so you will see that there will be a deviation. Okay, so there would be not a clear cut exact whatever the aggregate production plan you have developed that is meeting the master production schedule. So for that, what you are need to do is you may need to have some safety stock. Okay, you may need to schedule overtime production, or maybe you have to allow some back ordering or the outsourcing perspective. Okay, just to make sure that we should be able to meet that difference, which means in order to meet the demand and supply. So in a nutshell, we can say that the master production schedule is that is focusing on end product, and the timeline is usually is daily or the weekly perspective, and we need to identify the product mix, which means how much quantity of product A we should produce, how much quantity of product B should produce, and when we should produce. Okay. Now, let's see the example where we are going to develop a very simple type of aggregate production plan, and then based on that aggregate production plan, we will develop the master production schedule. So, the example we are considering is, let's say we have the ABC company, which is basically producing two type of product. So, we need to develop the aggregate production plan and the master production schedule on the quarterly basis. So, these are the quarters we have, and the forecast for the product group, mean product family level, is as follows. Okay, and then the opening inventory is 270 is given, and the company wants to reduce 150 units. So right now they have the 250 40 units, 70 units. At the end of the production plan, they want that when the quarter 4 is going to be ended, we must have 150 unit, not more than that. Okay, so it is saying that develop the level production plan. So basically this level means is one type of the strategy for developing the aggregate production plan. So we can adopt multiple type of strategies. uh, uh, we can choose multiple type of strategy in order to develop the aggregate production plan, and level is one of the simplest form. So the basic idea in the level production plan is that I do not want to change my production capacity, or you can say I do not want to change my the production quantity on the quarterly or the monthly basis. I just want to produce in a smooth way. So I will try to meet my product demand based on the available inventory I have. And so the advantage is going to be that there will be no hiring and firing during that whole year, or you can say during that time period, which means so we will try to meet the demand truly based on the production quantity as well as the inventory. So mainly the available inventory. Okay. So how you can develop this aggregate production plan is simply the aggregate production of just which is known as the level strategy is we will sum up the forecasted demand. Okay. Minus we have the initial inventory which is 270 plus how much ending inventory you want to have at the end of the plan, which we want 150. Okay, so this is 150, and the number of time periods we have, this is the 4 quarter. So based on that, what we are going to get is 200 plus 300 plus 200 plus 200 minus 270, that is the opening, plus 150 at the end divided by 4, which is going to be 200. So according to the level strategy, the aggregate production plan is going to be that we should produce 200 units over here of combined to these product. Okay, 200, 200, and this is also be the 200. Now we want to find out the projected available balance. So the projected available balance is basically the inventory at the end of this particular quarter, which is exactly equal to the equation of this one, which means the inventory in the last time period plus how much quantity we are producing in this time period is going to be equal to the demand of this time period plus the inventory at the end of this time period, or you can see the quarter. So right now we are talking about the first quarter. So put T is equal to 1. So this is going to be equal to I naught, which is the initial inventory, which means we are talking about 270. The how much quantity we are producing in this time period according to the production plan, which is 200. Okay, so this is Q1 I am saying, and how much demand we have in this time period, which is 220, plus how much inventory we will have at the end of the first quarter. So the initial inventory is 270 plus the Q1 is 200, the demand is 220 plus I1. So you can solve this one and we will get the I, which is 250. Okay. So once you solve it, you will be able to get this one, right? So this is similarly we have with respect to time period 2 using the same equation which we have used over here. So in short, this is going to be 250 plus 200, which is 450, minus 300 is going to be 150, and then 150, which is the inventory we have in the last time period plus production quantity, that is 350 minus 200 is going to be 150. Okay, then again we have 350 minus 200 is going to be 150. So the requirement which the management want from us, so at the end of the fourth quarter we have the 150 inventory. So this 920 is basically the sum of the total demand. Now, once we have this aggregate production plan, so you based on this, we are going to develop the master production schedule. So master production schedule means for every end product, we are going to develop the mass production plan. So the lot sizing which we are using, which means every time whenever we are going to produce, that is 200 unit, or you can say whenever we are going to order, that is going to be 200 units. So this is for product A, this is for product B. Let's develop first of all for product A master production schedule. So first of all, if you can see that again we are going to use for this one the same equation, which is IT minus 1, that is inventory we have the in the last time period plus how much quantity we are producing in this time period is going to be equal to the demand of this time period plus the inventory we have at the end of this time period. So this is called as inventory balancing constraint, which is also known as in the master production schedule is projected available balance. This MPS means the production quantity, how much quantity we are producing in this particular time period. Okay, so as you can see that we already have the product A in our inventory is to 120. Okay, So that means the demand is 120. So there is no need to produce in this particular time period, which means this is 0. So 120 plus 0 minus this, which means the projected available inventory is going to be 0 over here. Okay. Let me raise this one, right? So this dash mean, which mean we are not producing anything. So this is going to be 0, because now in the last time period we have 0 inventory. So that means we have to produce over here. And how much we have to produce? So we are producing exactly equal to 200, because we need to match this one. So let's say we are producing 200 because the lot sizing is 200. So this is 200 we are producing. Okay, so 0 plus 200 minus the demand is going to be the inventory, which is 20. Again, we cannot meet this demand with the help of this 20, so we have to produce again over here is 200. So 20 plus 200 is 220, minus 100 is going to be 120, right? And then 120 minus this 120 is going to be 0, and there will be no production quantity we have to produce over here, right? So we have developed the master production schedule for product A. Now we need to develop product B. But make sure that our master production schedule must be aligned with the aggregate production plan, as we have discussed earlier. So as you can see that according to the aggregate production plan, we can produce 200 unit in quarter 2, 200 unit in quarter 2, which we have done for the product A, right? So that means for product B, either we can produce in quarter 1 or either we can produce in quarter 2. We cannot produce in quarter 2 and 3, as we have already met according to the aggregate production plan for over here, right? So therefore, although we have the enough available inventory, okay, we can easily meet the demand of the first quarter, which is 150 minus 100. So we should have the projected available inventory is 50. But because we need to align this master production schedule with the aggregate production plan, therefore we have to produce over here, which is the 200 unit. So that therefore we have 150 plus 200 is 350, minus 100 is going to be 250. Then 250, so we can easily meet this demand 120, and there is no need to produce over here as we have discussed earlier, because we have already produced. So 250 minus 120 is going to be 130, and 130 minus 100 is going to be 30. So 30, with the help of 30, we cannot meet the demand of 80. So we have to produce over here. How much we have to produce? 200. That is a lot size. So 30 plus 220 minus 80 is going to be 150, right? So remember that based on the alignment of the master production schedule with the aggregate production plan. So there would be the number of possibilities in which you can use to develop this master production schedule, right? Okay, so in a nutshell, when we are talking about the master production schedule, what kind of input we needed? First of all, we should know the aggregate production plan of that product family. We should know the every end product's forecasted demand. We should know the actual order if we have, or you can say the confirmed orders from the customer. We should have the inventory level of every end product, and if there is a capacity limitation, what are the capacity limitations? Okay, so till now we have discussed about these things. We till now we didn't have, we will talk about this one when we are going to talk about the rough cut capacity plan. Okay, so once we have given this input to the master production schedule, we are going to get these three things, which mean MPS, which is a master production schedule, that is mean how much quantity we should produce in a particular time period. The projected available balance means the inventory we have in a particular time period. The quantity available promise, I'm going to talk about in a minute. So basically, this available to promise is similar to, you can say, the available inventory we have, but in a different way we are going to calculate. So the basic idea behind this available to promise is that, is there any way that we should be able to reduce our inventory level in a particular time period? So therefore, the calculation of the available to promise is a little bit different compared to the projected available balance. As you know that the projected available balance we are calculating using this particular equation, okay, which is last time period inventory plus master production schedule, or you can say the quantity we are producing is equal to dt is equal to it. So this it is basically the projected available balance, right? But in a master production schedule, this is a little bit different. How it is different, we will discuss in a minute. So in order to develop the master production schedule is, first of all, we will develop the master production schedule as we have seen earlier. Okay, then we are going to check whether the master production schedule is aligned with the available capacity. If it is yes, then it is okay. But if it is not, that is violating the capacity, then we will try to, you can say, resolve the difference between the capacity and the master production schedule. So right now we are talking about these two things, okay? But right now, let's discuss again the master production schedule. Okay, so over here I am mainly talking about the three type of time zones, okay? Because when we are developing a master production schedule, so there would be a three time zone. One is called as a frozen zone, another is called as slushy zone, or you can say the planning time fence, or a liquid zone. So basically the idea of these zones are, uh, uh, this is not compulsory that you have developed the frozen zone for the three period. So it's totally up to you whether you want to freeze this time period for up to 1 month, or 1 week, or a two for the two period, or a three period, or a four period. It's totally the management decision. So the idea behind it is that after this time period, which means for the first three time period, we are not going to change the customer order, okay? So we are, whatever the customer order they have given, okay, so based on that we are not going to change our master production schedule. So that's why for this frozen zone we never use the forecasted demand. In order to develop the master production schedule in the frozen zone, we always consider the confirm orders, whereas in this planning time fence or slushy zone, we always use the forecasted demand as well as in a liquid as well, because in this time zone, we are not going to change our master production schedule as well as the, you can say, inventories, okay? But if you want to change this one, that is not going to be changed without the approval of the senior management. Whereas over here you can change the material or the capacity, right? Because that is based on the forecasted demand. You can change your master production schedule similarly over here as well. Okay, so I hope you got the idea regarding why we are dividing this master production schedule into the three time period. But practically, I have experienced mostly people divide this master production schedule into two time zone. One is a frozen zone, another is, you can say, the remaining time zone. The in a frozen zone, we are not changing our master production schedule without the approval of the senior management, and that is truly based on the confirmed customer orders. So after that, that is purely based on the forecasted demand, which you can change. Okay. So let's discuss the master production schedule. As we know that in order to calculate the projected available balance, so we can use this particular equation, which says that in a frozen zone, the demand we are going to use is, that is the confirm orders, which means we are talking about this one, as I have told you earlier. Whereas in this slushy zone or a liquid zone, you can use the demand, which is the basically the forecasted demand, right? Okay, let's consider example, and I'm going to calculate the projected available balance for the first three time period, which means for the frozen zone, when the lot size is 50 and the safety stock we have is 0. Okay, So right now, we are going to calculate the projected available balance, right? Again, using the same equation, but over here, the demand for this time period is going to be considered only the confirm orders. So we have the available inventory is 50, right? So 50 minus 19, so I can easily meet this demand. So that means there is no need to produce over here. So 50 minus 19 is going to be the projected available balance, or you can say the inventory at the end of the first time period. So in a first time period, there is no need to meet to produce anything. Okay, so that means QT for the first time period is going to be 0. And again, we I can meet this demand with the available balance. So 31 minus 17 is going to be 14. Again, this QT is going to be 0. Whereas 14 minus 15 is minus 1, which means I cannot meet this demand. So I have to produce over here how much I have to produce, which is equal to the lot size, that is going to be 50 over here. And then 14 plus 50 is 64 minus 15 is going to be 14. I have the projected available inventory, right? Now, let's discuss what is the available to promise. So, till now, we have discussed the master production schedule, we have discussed the projected available balance. Now, let's discuss what is the meaning of available to promise. So, basically, the available to promise is the portion of the inventory and the planned production quantity that is not already committed and available to customer. So, basically, in a available to promise, we ignore completely ignoring the forecasted demand. We purely considering only the customer order, which are confirmed customer orders. Okay. And basically, how we are going to calculate this available to promise is for first time period, the inventory we have in the previous period, which is basically the last time period inventory, plus production quantity, minus we are going to say the cumulative customer demand till the we are decided that in this particular time period we are going to produce something. But after the first time period, there is only this portion is going to be our formula. So we will see an example over there. You will be able to clearly understand how we are going to calculate the available to promise. But the major idea of using the available to promise is that if you want to reduce the inventory of every particular for a particular product. So that is the basic idea. As the Walmart use this available to promise in order to lower the inventory level of their of the particular products. Okay, let's consider example over here. I am saying that that the production quantity is 50 unit. So similarly, whenever the product is produced, that is going to be 50. So there is no safety stock we have of this particular product. So the lot size is 50, the safety stock is 0. We want to find out the MPS, we want to find out the projected available balance as well as available to promise. So first of all, let's find out the projected available balance as well as the master production schedule. As we know that for the frozen zone, we only consider for the available projected available balance to the confirm order. So after that, we use only the forecasted demand. So over there, 50 minus 19 is going to be our projected available balance, which is 31. So that means I am meeting this demand with the help of inventory. So there will be 0 MPS. Again, 31 minus 17 is going to be the projected available balance. Again, over here, inventory is going to be 0. And then I cannot meet this demand with the help of this 14. So therefore, I have to produce over here. How much I have to produce? This is going to be 50 over here. Okay. And then 14 plus 50, 64 minus 15 is going to be 49. But after that, when we have the slashy zone, we are not considering the confirm orders. We are using the forecasted demand. So 49 minus 25 I can meet. Okay, so that means this is going to be 0. So 49 minus 25, we have the available balance 24. So again, the demand is 24. I can meet. This is also going to be 0. Okay, so 24 minus 24, this is going to be 0 over here. Okay, as the safety stock is also 0, so we reach at the level of 0 inventory. Okay, so that means with the help of this 0 I cannot meet this demand, so I have to produce over here, which is going to be 50. So 0 plus 50 is 50, minus 23 is going to be 27, and then again I can meet this demand, so 27 minus 21 is going to be 6 over here, so this is going to be 0, right? Again, with the help of this 6, I cannot meet this demand. So that means 50 is going to be over here. So 6 plus 50 is 56, minus 21 is going to be 35. And then 35 minus 25 is 10. Again, with the help of this 10, I cannot meet this demand. I have to produce over here is 50. So 60 minus 25 is 35, right? Okay, so I believe you got the idea of how we are going to find out the projected available balance as well as the master production schedule. Now we are going to find out the available to promise. So how we can do that? The first is that is going to be basically with the help of this um, inventory we have at initially, plus if there is a master production schedule in initially we have, as we do not have any master production schedule or the production quantity. So therefore, 50 minus sum of the confirmed orders till the time period where we have the next master production schedule. So that's why we are summing up this 19 plus 17. So 50 minus sum of this 19 plus 17 is going to be 40. Okay, and then we have this 50, right? This master schedule. The next we are going to find out, that is 50 minus the sum of till the sum of all the demand till we have the next production quantity. So 50 minus 15 plus 11 plus 9 is going to be 15. Okay, so this basically 9 plus 11 is 20, plus 15 is 35. So 50 minus 35 is 15. Okay, the next what we have, then we have going to produce over here. So the sum of these two values. So 50 minus 7 is going to be our 43. Then 50 minus sum of this, sorry, this these two, which is going to be 49 over here. Okay, so how I am saying that if I we are going to use the available to promise in order to manage our inventory, with the help of this one, the inventory level is going to be reduced. As you can see that if I am going to add this inventory and if I am going to add this one, so the available to promise is significantly lesser than the projected available balance. So how we can calculate the cumulative? This 14 is going to be as it is. Okay, then this 14 plus 15 is going to be this one, which is 29. Then this 29 plus 43 is going to be 72. 72 plus 49 is 121. So basically, available to promise inventory is in this one we have 121 units. Okay, now let's solve this problem if we are saying that instead of safety stock is 0, if we have safety stock 10. Okay, so that means whenever there is the inventory level is going to reach 10 unit or less, we are going to place the order. So which means if I'm going to calculate the projected available balance or the master production schedule, so 50 minus 19, so I can meet, so that means there is no need to produce, that is 31. Again, with the help of this 31, I can meet this demand. 31 minus 17 is going to be 14, so there is no need to produce over here. So 14 minus 15 is going to be less than this safety stock, which is 10. So that means we have to produce over here, which is 50. So that means 14 plus 50 is 64, minus 15 is going to be 49. So again, for the projected available balance, so 49 minus 25 is going to be 24. So this 24 minus 24 is going to be 0. Although with the help of this inventory, I am able to meet this demand, but as you can see that once we are going to meet this one, our inventory level is going to reduce the safety stock level. So therefore we have to produce within this time period. Okay, so that's why when we are going to produce this 50 unit, because 24 minus 24 is 0, that is lesser than the safety stock. That's why we are producing this 50 unit over here. Whereas in a same scenario, if we are saying the safety stock is 0, then in that scenario, there is no need to produce in this particular time period. We still meet the demand of this 24 unit with the help of this one, and the balance is going to be 0 in that particular case if the safety stock was 0. Okay, and there is no need to produce over here, so we can produce 50 unit over here, right? But as the safety stock which we want to keep is the 10 unit, so as we can see that 24 minus 24, which is less than the 10 units, so that's where we have to produce over here. Okay, now we have 74 minus 24 is 50. Okay. Then with the help of this 50 minus 23, we have 27, and there is no MPS. 27 minus 21 is going to be 6. So that means that is less than the safety stock. So we have to produce over here, which is the 50 units. So that means 27 plus 50 is 77, minus 21 is going to be 56. Similarly, for period 8 and 9 and 10. Okay, and for available to promise, that is going to be the same. Okay, that is 50 if there is a production quantity, but that is not. So right now 50 plus sum of these two, because after this we are producing this MPS. So for this 50 minus sum of till, we have the production quantity. 50 minus sum of this two, still the production quantity. Okay, so similarly we can find out the cumulative time available to promise cumulative values. So I hope you got the idea how we can develop the master production schedule, as well as how we can find out the projected available balance and available to promise. And in the end, we have to see whether which uh, whatever the master production schedule we have developed, is it meeting the capacity requirement or not. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to identify the critical resource. When we are saying the critical resource, that means we are talking about the bottleneck or the weakest operation in our entire production process. Okay, so what we are going to do in a first step is we are going to identify the capacity of that critical resource. Okay, so based on that, we would be able to get the capacity of our production line, and then we are going to develop the resource profiles. Okay, for every particular workstation, or you can say the machine. How we can do that? We can simply saying that the how much quantity we are producing in a particular let's say a day, and multiply by the number of hours we are producing in a day. Okay, number of hours we are working in a day, that is going to be the you can say the unit we are producing. Okay, and then how much load we are basically or you can say the work we are assigning to them. So we can compare the capacity with respect to the load. Okay, as you can see that the capacity of this particular time against our resources is that all our resources is able to produce this number of units, whereas we are loading this number of units, right? So that means if our master production schedule is saying that we have to produce in quarter one is this number of units, but our capacity is not meeting. So that means we have to balance this out. How you can do that? The one way is that, as you can see, in this second quarter, our capacity is higher. In third is capacity is higher. Either we can balance this one, okay, mean adjust this one, or either you can decide that if you want to see that in every particular quarter we should able to meet the capacity, so you can decide whether we should work on overtime, or whether we are going for the outsourcing, or we can go for the overtime production. Okay, so I hope you got the idea how you can develop the master production schedule, how you can align with the capacity planning as well. So thank you so much. See you in the next video.